I don't believe that bureaucrats in Washington should tell someone whether they can use contraceptives or not. And I don't believe employers should tell someone whether they could have contraceptive care or not. Every woman in America should have access to contraceptives.
I don't believe employers should tell someone whether they can have contraceptive care or not. Ezra Klein, MSNBC policy analyst. I hate to call this one a slow-moving fastball over the middle of the plate, but isn't that kind of a slow-moving fastball over the middle of the plate?
It moved pretty slow. The first problem with what Romney said there is what he said about not wanting bureaucrats in Washington to tell someone whether they can use contraceptives or not. If Mitt Romney gets to be the head bureaucrat in Washington, he's promised to defund Planned Parenthood. That's a key provider of birth control to more than 2 million or so American women. The second problem with what Mitt Romney said about birth control is that he doesn't believe employers should be able to tell people whether they can have contraceptive care. In fact, what Mitt Romney has said is he absolutely supports the Blunt Amendment, which, if you don't remember it, the Blunt Amendment, of course, does exactly that. It allows employers to tell you whether or not you get birth control coverage or any other kind of medical coverage for that matter, if they say it violates their, quote, religious beliefs or moral convictions.
Wow. I want to ask you also about a moment where another healthcare issue came up, and it was raised not by the moderator or by the audience questioner, but by President Obama. The original question here was to Mr. Romney, how are you different than George W. Bush? He gave an answer which answered that a little bit, but not really. But then when Mr. Obama had his turn at that question, this is what he said.
There are some things where Governor Romney is different from George Bush. Heck, George Bush didn't propose turning Medicare into a voucher.
I don't know about George W. Bush and Medicare and vouchers. Was the president right there?
I do know about George W. Bush and Medicare and vouchers. Earlier this year, I went back and I read Renewing America's Promise, which is his George W. Bush policy book from 2000. And what surprised me when I read it was right there in the Medicare section, there was a big thing on turning Medicare into a voucher. And I think we actually have the quote from it right here. It says, the commission introduced a reform plan modeled after the federal employees health benefit program. Then on the next page, as president, Governor Bush will seek to reform Medicare by building on these recent bipartisan efforts. It is very carefully phrased in the book. He doesn't use the words premium support, doesn't use the words voucher. But if you know what that plan he's talking about from the bipartisan Medicare Reform Commission of the 90s is, that is premium support. This is something Republicans have wanted to do for a very long time in Medicare. George W. Bush did want to do it, although he didn't push it as president. And it's something Mitt Romney wants to do now. So that contrast Obama drew is not quite right. There is continuity between Bush and Romney on Medicare voucher.
That's amazing. You think about the way that